Welcome back, everyone, to another Red Spotlight After Dark. Alexis here with Peter Martinez. Kyle was not here today. Apparently, he floated. And the film,
no.
the film that we're reacting to right now is It Chapter 2, which stars a whole bunch of people.
Stars actors.
Yeah. We just got out of the film. And of course, as you know, this show, we're going to tell you what we thought of it immediately. Yeah. It's long. It's a pretty long movie. You're pretty much committing yourself to at least 3 hours
It's
sitting there,
2
right?
hours and
45 minutes?
50 minutes.
It's 50.
It's 50.
Okay.
Which I would have just added an extra 10 in there. Just fucking go for it. I don't know.
Well, it pretty much, you're going to be sitting in that theater for over 3 hours.
Yeah.
When you're going with trailers and everything, so that's a 3-hour commitment to the film. Yeah. What do you think?
You go first.
No, I went first last time. I think we should switch
Wait,
on
what
and
was
on.
last time?
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Did you go first for those ones?
You asked me to go first, and I went first.
I don't remember that. Okay.
I mean, we have the tapes.
Yeah, but even the tapes can't convince you sometimes. Like what I think of the movie?
Just what? Did you like it? I don't know. I mean, what do you think we do here?
Okay. I liked it. I think Andy Muschietti, is that his name?
Yeah, I think so. It rhymes with Steve Buscemi, something like that.
Something Muschietti. I think he's a good director. I think there's a lot of really
What else has he
good
done?
direction. It.
Yeah. That's it? Okay.
Well, he did one Guillermo del Toro produced film called Mama. This is a horror film. I actually enjoyed that one too. But no, from like the first It and this one, you can tell. I think I at least feel that he's a solid director. And he's really good. This film feels like after they made the first one, they were like, the sequel is gonna be an 8-episode Netflix series. And then they said, no, never mind, we'll do a movie. But they kept the scripts and squished them down to get to the 2-hour and 50-minute mark for the film. So there's a lot of good in it and a lot of bad. Well, I don't know about a lot of bad. It's just the bad that's there is kind of noticeable. Overall, I liked it. I enjoyed it. But yeah, this is another thing where it's like sequelitis. People just get so ambitious with the film they're trying to tell. I would say if you have to cut it up into 3 movies, but I think you could have cut this way down. I think you could have knocked off 30 minutes, 40 minutes,
50 minutes.
50 minutes.
An hour. I mean, who knows?
I think you could have seriously cut this down, rearranged the story, make it a lot tighter. With the first film, I don't remember how long it is. It did feel a little episodic, a little bit within that film, with how like now this one sees it, now this one sees it, now this one sees it. But it felt a lot tighter. With this one, it's like we'll get into more spoilers, but
yeah, I'm on the same lines as that. I think the film is very much enjoyable. I liked it, and I think for me though, it has certain aspects of sequelitis. I think the pacing is one of those issues where you just mentioned the first film. I don't recall having an issue with the pacing in the first film. I think this film has. I think the people that were making this movie convinced themselves that the pacing was all right, considering what they were doing. But it seems to be that it was maybe a way too much for what this movie could sustain.
Yeah.
And I would also say that to some who enjoy the first film, I don't really get anything more out of this sequel than what the first film already didn't give me.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
Maybe some aspects of the scares were more disturbing. Some of the imagery was a little bit more frightening. But if I were to say what my biggest issue with the film was, is that it just felt more of the same. Even, yes, it's longer, and the pacing is a little bit more clumsy, and it's stuffing a lot into this movie, and that adds to it.
Yeah.
But it felt in a way beat for beat the same film as the first one. Even how they beat down Pennywise, no spoilers, it very much felt like I was watching the first movie again.
And I don't know if it's me. I mean, there obviously has to be more Pennywise in this film just because of how much fucking longer it is. But it feels like there was less of him.
Yes, exactly. I don't know where it was.
Like with the first one, I feel like there was a character. With this one,
a caricature?
He wasn't there. He had to have been there, like time-wise. Just because this is almost a 3-hour film, and he does come out a lot, but he doesn't feel like a...
I think that's one of the consequences of having a longer film. And you're juggling two casts, or two age group of casts here, because this film is juggling the original Losers Club, the children, and then also the adults. There's a lot of juggling back and forth, a lot of calling back to, jumping back and forth in terms of what is happening. A lot of the center part of this movie feels like they repackaged deleted scenes from It 1 and used... They're not. And I know how they're not, but we'll get into that in the spoilers. But it very much feels as if, while in the middle of this movie, it's as if Pennywise is just not even there. I mean, he is, but you feel as if maybe
Can we get into spoilers? Because it's hard to talk about this.
Okay, all right. Overall, we enjoyed it, but there are some problems.
Yeah. I think sequelitis is a good way to put it. Because it's overly ambitious the way a lot of sequels get, to where they lose focus of the film itself.
Golden Circle can be a good example of that. Kingsman 2.
Yeah. Which, that's another film I enjoyed, but it's like the film got away from them. And you can feel it here too. I still think what's his name is a good director, because scenes individually I really liked, but as a whole,
to be clear, nothing here was bad. It was a wonderfully directed. Exactly. Yeah. It was a wonderfully directed film. I think maybe the main issue goes back to the writing and editing for sure. But even then, the actors all did a great job.
Yeah.
I think maybe perhaps what was done best in the sequel was the casting, the cast direction.
Oh, the casting was great. The casting was really good.
Because you really believe that these adult versions were these kids that aged, and gotta tell you, they
really feel like they just aged 27 years.
Yeah,
they did a good job.
That's not an easy thing to do. So, and the part about this movie is that they had to be believable to the kids that you kind of fell in love with in the first movie. If they just felt like carbon copies, not all of them worked for me. There were some of them that kind of were weak spots, and there was one in particular, I'll say. But overall, I think it was a slam dunk when it comes to the casting. And even though it seems as if Pennywise was less in this movie, I think Skarsgård still brought it. It was so great as a role.
Yeah. Let's get into spoilers.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because, okay, so the issue I have is the cutting back and forth.
Yeah, there was a lot of it.
Honest to God, and the reason I say it feels like a Netflix series, I could see the structure. The first 2 episodes are them getting introduced, and then the next 5 episodes are each of them, cutting back to them, and they're going through their own journey throughout that day. Because that's how each one, it feels so segmented, and it's so long. because you see an entire sequence of them. And it does feel like basically deleted scenes. This is what the kids went through when the camera wasn't looking at them during the first film.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And again, that's why it feels like it's mostly repeating, because that's most of where we're getting the scares from.
Yeah.
From them as kid. So that's why it doesn't feel like, it kind of feels like Pennywise isn't a character, because we're just getting him from the first film. And what I was really excited to get with him is him, like, sort of on a venge-filled, like, fuck you guys, 27 years type Pennywise, like angry Pennywise, which you kind of got in the beginning. I think the best part of the film is the beginning, and like everything getting set up, and you know, like Pennywise come home because he really fucking hates them. But then after that, he kind of fucks off for a bit while they all go down memory lane. And
and do they go down memory lane? Like all of them do.
So many lanes. And it just becomes very
muddled. Is that the
like,
word for it?
Very muddled.
Or maybe distracted. Or maybe I think the thing is, we were expecting it to go down memory lane, but perhaps it was too much of a detour.
So much of cutting to them as young kids, and it's like, I get it. I really liked the first film, but what I was looking forward to with the second film is not them being kids, them being adults, and just seeing how they tackle something very childlike, like the first one, taking an adult, and now how it is now, and how they tackle the clown now, and how the clown's probably much fucking worse than they were as a kid, because now he's angry, he wants vengeance, and all kinds of shit like that. And you get some of that.
Some of the vengeance, although I felt maybe it was a bit lacking. I don't know about that.
It was very lacking.
I was imagining a much more... kind of like what they did with Thanos in Infinity War and Endgame, where, like, in Endgame, he's made much more terrifying because now he really means that he's going to burn down the whole universe, where it was before he was snapping...
The first one, it's like they were kids. Right. He was fucking with them. But then the kids got the better of them.
Right.
So, because he even says, like, in the trailers, they're like, I've been waiting for you. Like, just the idea that he's been salivating at the thought of getting back
But you never feel that impact, because nothing that he does here is any different than what he did in the first movie.
And then, again, because a lot of the film is just kind of deleted scenes from the first movie.
Right.
Like, here's some shit that you could just have completely cut out of the film, and should have been cut out of the film.
The whole second act?
Well,
I have a hot take.
Huh.
And I think I want to start off with that, about things that could have been cut out of the movie.
Okay.
Because I feel two ways about what you said about the cutting back to the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they cut back to them too many times, but at the same time, I felt like they were barely in this movie. Honestly, like, nothing with what they did was, like, it didn't feel anything... It didn't feel necessary, almost. Like, it almost was like you could have just cut...
redundant.
Right. So it's like, maybe you shouldn't have had them in this movie. Unless like brief like cut.
Small little moments. I think like one or two, and then the last shot of them as adults, and then turning to them as kids.
Right.
But not have half the movie just show deleted scenes. Like, there's a reason these scenes didn't make it to the first film, because they didn't add much. To be fair, they're not actually deleted scenes. You could tell they were very much made for this film.
But they feel like deleted scenes.
Feel like that. Like, okay, here's some other shit that I think that all the scenes with them as kids should have been really just cut out. We saw them as kids.
That was the first movie?
That was the first film. I wanted to see them as adults here and how they handled it.
Right.
Which we got some of... But my favorite parts were them.
Exactly.
Okay, so cut that. Cut the bully coming back.
What was that?
Because I kept thinking, like, it's gonna add to something.
And it didn't really. He was just there to be there.
He showed up.
It was strange, because it felt as if, like, Pennywise had formed some kind of attachment or alliance with this bully.
There was, like, this big build-up with him, and then they just kind of kill him and move on. And it's like, I thought he was gonna be a vital part of, like...
It's just
everything
an
going
annoyance,
on,
really.
but he was just kind of there. That's something you could have cut completely from the film. I know why they had it. I still don't think it was necessary. The the kid that I guess maybe dies.
Stanley.
No.
Georgie?
The new little kid.
Yeah, that was that too felt like you kind of got what they were trying to say with that, but it still kind of was
It
a bit
added
muddled because
too much time.
yeah. So there's this kid that's in this movie that Billy, is that his name, or James McAvoy now, aged up James McAvoy looks at and is living in his old house. There's some resemblance to his younger brother Georgie, and then he ends up being killed by Pennywise, it seems. But it didn't really add much of anything.
It really, and I understand there's like, oh, he feels guilt.
Right.
But again, I feel like a lot of that was dealt with in the first film.
Mm-hmm. And I get that guilt would still be there, but maybe, I don't know, maybe that should have been cut down dramatically. It seemed like.
It's a lot. And then especially because after he's dead, it's just kind of like...
Like, you know what? Because we're talking about spoilers, all we really needed was that last moment when he goes in that vision, when he's in the puddle in the basement. And you see Georgie, the vision of Georgie, whatever. You know what I'm talking about, that last puddle?
Yeah.
That's all we kind of needed out of this. We didn't need the whole other aspect, if anything.
Not really, no. And there's just so much where it's like, if you would have just stripped the fat off of it, there was good shit.
There's a lot,
There's a lot of good shit. The beginning, when all the Losers Club, they get back together, and you know, they're hanging out. The only moment where I think really needed a like catching up on everyone was them as adults getting the call, and it's like you very quickly like, this is who they are, this is where they're at, and they're all terrified to come back, but they don't know why. Like, oh, that's great. But then once they're adults, it's like, okay, let's keep it at adults and them playing off each other and dealing with a lot of the shit from when they were younger. Like the one that calls them all back, I forgot his name. Mike. Like, he gets nothing, really. He's just sort of
Can I just tell you, that's the one that I had the biggest issue with. And that was because he felt like a plot device. He didn't feel like a character. I felt like maybe he wasn't really much of a character in the first film, but it felt as if all the life was drained out of that character, and he was just spewing out things to move the plot along. They made him seem crazy, which he kind of was.
Well,
and
he would be, though.
Right. And I don't know, like, I just think with that character, with Mike, it came across as a bit much. And it didn't really, I don't know, it's like and also the film doesn't pay that much attention to him. Like, we get a lot with all the other ones, and
you get a lot with all the other ones.
But he's just kind of there, and I feel sad because like he's like, there could have been something interesting there because like he's the one that never really left. What's the name of the town? The town, whatever it is. Like, he always Derry, and he felt there was a
you have some emotional shit where like he's
like he felt imprisoned or something.
While everyone moved on, he didn't.
Right.
And I feel like there's a lot you could do with that. And
like time passing him by. There's a lot of things you could say there, and it kind of was not. And it's also interesting. It's also weird, right? Because like this movie tries to say, well, I don't know. There's a lot going on.
There's so much.
Because like with Beverly, apparently she married her father.
Abusive. Yeah.
She married her father, basically.
Which, okay, there's something
you could do with that, but it kind of feels like it was dropped almost immediately, right? After she comes back?
It just kind of goes back. Well, they kind of deal with it at the end when she kicks open the door, and she's like, no. But most of her thing is like a love triangle.
That's another one of those things. Again, I don't want to make this negative, but like that also feels... It also, I don't know what it is, but it feels like they didn't know where they were going with that until the very end.
It doesn't really work because one of the people in that love triangle, I really feel like he genuinely doesn't give a shit. Like, like he's just kind of.
I think the movie kind of acknowledged that. Like, he just saw them off, like, oh, okay.
But yeah, but it's like, and I understand what they're building to within that, but it's just so much. I just feel like just cut down. And then yeah, most of the scares, like the movie starts, I think it starts pretty well. We're introduced, Pennywise is back, and then everyone gets scared. They come back, they remember, and then he says, "You all got to get something from your past." So then the vast majority of the film,
that felt a bit forced to me.
Yeah.
Was that? I don't know. Did you read the book?
No. It's okay. The book is fucking huge.
I know. That's gonna be. I think our own David read the book, right? Does he? I think he owns
reads
it.
A lot of books.
I think he might be useful to talk to about this if because I want to know how much of this was from the actual text and how much of it was like just completely original in this sense. But that aspect of like going back, I don't know if maybe I've seen it done so many times before, but it felt a bit forced.
And then I think you could cut down on a lot of it just having, because they said, oh, you each have to do it on your own. Why? Why? You could have had them, broke them into, two groups. Right. And then you could have cut down on time so much. That's the thing.
You're so right, because once they said you have to go on your own, do your own thing, well, that's where the whole, Netflix 8-episode series mentality kicks in, because they each get their own little chunk of the movie where they go off and they have their own, Pennywise encounter.
Some of it is warranted.
Yes.
And some of it isn't. Bill Hader's character.
There's something there that surprised me. Only because I feel the film was doing a poor job of trying of showing that until the very end.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, first and foremost,
I was like, is this what they're implying? And then
I was confused.
Oh, yeah.
They made it very clear at the end, but I missed the part between the middle and the end where it was going in that direction. It kind of really felt like it came out of nowhere.
And the film is pretty
mean,
non-subtle. So it's funny that obviously it's a horror film.
Yeah,
but the film is pretty unsubtle in a lot of different ways. And with this one, I thought it was interesting that they played it super subtle.
It was. I thought it was leading up to a moment of where that was going to play a big part in revealing the truth in taking down Pennywise, but
he reveals the truth and then he's okay with himself, and then I thought that would be a part of it.
Right. Okay, but here's the thing about it, and okay, so Bill Hader's character is Richard. The younger version was Finn Winstock. Whatever his name from Stranger Things. One thing about that, I don't know if they ran out of money, but I read about this beforehand. So a lot of the scenes with the younger kids, they had to actually spend money to de-age them because of how much they've grown in the past 2 years.
Yeah, I could tell. Not that I could tell they're de-aged, but I could tell they look way younger than they do now.
No. They look young, for me anyway. I think, I have to say, I think the visual effects weren't good with that aspect. And here's why. Because they looked younger than, some of them looked younger than they did in the first film.
Do you think they did too good of a job?
Maybe that's what it is. But I know, look, I get it that, the kids really aged up in the past 2 years. I get that. But the, what's his name? Richard's, Bill Hader's younger character's eyes looked really glossy and just, I could tell it was fake.
Oh, okay.
Go back.
Maybe I wasn't paying attention, but I didn't notice.
I was distracted a lot by it. And I didn't go into the movie with that in my head, but when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's right. I remember reading that.
How about instead of de-aging, just cut their shit?
And you could save money too by not having to spend the money to de-age them.
Because it's we don't need to see their journey as kids.
Because we saw it already.
I thought this is two parts: them as kids and then them as adults.
Right.
So it's the original book. The whole book is them going back and forth.
Right.
As kids, and that part I know. I think it actually, how it starts with them calling them back. I think that's the beginning of the book, and then the whole book is them going back.
So it's
and
really
forth,
scatterbrained.
Well, it's a book. It can be. A film, you really need to cut down the story to 3 acts. Boom, boom, boom.
So back to Bill Hader. First and foremost, I really enjoyed Bill Hader in this movie. He was great.
He was really good.
Bill Hader is somebody, I think he's on the show Barry now. Like, he's getting a lot more
Barry's
clout.
Great too.
A lot great stuff now. He's really, I think, arriving in a way that he wasn't so before. But, so the deal with him is, so, he's gay.
Yeah, and when I say they're unsubtle, like, he's literally like, hey, you want to play more Street Fighter? You're gay? And, like, wasn't that weird?
Strange. Because
why would he just assume he's gay because he wanted to play more Street Fighter?
That came out of nowhere. Like, which, I mean, fine, but then... That's one thing in and of itself. And Pennywise somehow knows this, but I guess...
Well, he knows everything.
Right, that's right. That's true. That's not really... That's not
it's
real
not really an issue.
But it turns out he was in love with...
Eddie. Yeah.
I never picked up on that. It feels... I don't... Okay. I'm not trying to be critical of that dynamic or whatever. I want to be critical of the way how the film handled it, because it feels like it was written in at the last minute. Because the film doesn't really address it, right?
Like, I actually like that angle.
Right, I agree with you.
I really like it.
Yeah.
It's just like, it wasn't until the end when he was crying for him really, really hard, I'm like, oh, is this? And then at the end, like, he recarved his name. Eddie, and it's like, okay, I wasn't picking up on this at all, especially in the first film.
At all.
Yeah.
So
and again, I haven't read the book, so it's just like maybe did they add that? I don't know.
Well, let's just be clear.
I liked it. I just kind of wish they would. Like I said, I thought maybe it would come into the third act, where, and again, this is why I just wanted more scenes of them as an adults. Like they're trying to reconcile the fact that they ran away from their past, and then, you know, in order to face Pennywise, they got to deal with it in a more open way. And you kind of get that, like, with the whole Beverly thing and
the other guy
I forgot his name, and then of course, what's his name, he's like, no, I was a good brother.
James McAvoy.
I guess I just wish it was better done.
I think, because I agree with you.
And then with Bill Hader, like, they didn't really
utilize that in that way. Here's the thing.
Especially because Pennywise kept throwing it in his face. Like, I know a secret. So I thought the big thing was, like, you know, I'm not afraid of you, and I'm not afraid of who I am. Like, I thought that was going to be the real awesome, like, third act. But that didn't happen.
It didn't materialize the way that it should have. I think, just to be clear, there's no issue with the idea. I think the idea of it is interesting, it's cool, and I think if done right, it would have been a great part of this film, and something really new for these characters. I do not believe that was something that was at all borrowed from the book. I think it feels very new. And to be fair, this film is a lot gayer in a way than I thought it would, because it even opens in that way, and then it's
because at first I was like, when they did that, I was like,
when they opened the film.
Oh yeah, with like the
couple,
the gay couple, and I was like, okay, that's cool. But then they like really made a point of like showing it, and then
they show.
No, but I mean, like, when they
kiss.
No, not kiss.
When they get beat up.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like, and I was like, oh, okay, is this gonna be like a part of the film?
I assumed it was. In fact, I was like, okay, so I was
especially because that was the gay guy that they kill in the beginning, where Pennywise does. He's the one that gives him the pamphlet. Right. Remember when he says like this? But I thought like more like social commentary would be more about it. Like maybe like dairy, because dairy never grows, it stays the same. They have a lot of their old like backwards evil ideas, because it has the town members beat them up, and then
horrifically, by the way.
Horrific. God,
they don't hold back.
It was probably the most horrific thing in the film. Like,
it kind of put me in a bad mood opening the movie like that.
Yeah,
like,
it kind of did. But and then Pennywise eats them and consumes them. So it's like, oh, like the town and the representative of the town, Pennywise. And I thought they like social commentary, you know. And again, they kind of touch on it, but the whole film is so jumbled. it's hard, you know. There's a lot of good things, a lot of great ideas, but it's just
I feel like
so
we're trying to
together.
untangle a puzzle.
That's
here.
what, yeah. Because it's like we pulled this connects to that, and then okay, I saw what they were trying to do here.
And I thought one of the gay couple was like one of the main losers.
Oh, that's what I assumed too.
Right, because they open the movie and
also it's pretty long.
Yeah,
it's a pretty long opening.
Yeah,
if they had just started on them walking down the bridge, and then started there, I was like, oh, okay, it's the first kill or whatever.
Right.
But they started at the what's it called? At
the carnival.
The carnival. And then there was the kid that's part of the group. He's such a shit. I was like, ooh, Pennywise is gonna eat him. But no, he eats the guy and he's an adult. So I thought like, oh, maybe Pennywise is feeding on adults now because
that could have been something.
That like because of, you know, the kids that got away, something to do with it. So now he's going after adults in the town. I was like, oh, okay, maybe that's why they're showing it. But no, he goes back to killing kids. So why did he kill this one adult? And again, so I thought like maybe the social commentary thing, which kind of, I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, that's why I felt, because there was a lot of that being thrown around, that Bill Hader's character would kind of culminate that commentary and do something with that. Or the film would say something with it.
And they kind of do at the end where he carves it back in and he's like, no, but I thought it would be like specifically within the third act.
And look, that's a great idea, but again, like, that came... I feel the film did such a disservice to that relationship, because there really wasn't one. And, like, to just, like, at the very end say, oh, Richard and Eddie, it kind of was more shocking than it was, like, oh.
Well, I kind of would have liked to see that conversation happen.
Especially since, like, Eddie's not gay.
Yeah.
You know, so
But they do... He does love him.
Right.
You know, as they all do. So, but I think just being able to get it out would have been something... Important for Bill Hader's character.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Again, we liked it.
I feel there's like an amazing film if you could just like cut off the fat.
There's a lot of different things because like they go into like there's a lot of weird stuff that's there to be there, and it kind of throws you, like that reanimated corpse of like the bully's friend from the first movie comes back, and I guess he drives around and like.
But the whole thing with the bully, I think, was so unnecessary. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, they loved every idea they had, so they went with every idea they had. Or maybe the book was just so full of things, and they loved everything that was in the book, so they had to include it. But it's like, no, this is an adaptation. You really gotta... You have to adapt the thing.
It's different.
Stephen King cameo, that was awesome.
I'm surprised there's not more of those.
Yeah. But that one was good.
That also...
Was the director someone?
I don't know.
He seems like he was someone. He looked familiar. In the beginning, remember when they went on set to the film they were making?
You didn't recognize him?
Who's that?
I thought you recognized him. Well, maybe I got this wrong. Maybe you should Google it real quick about who that was. I thought it was Paul Bogdanovich. Paul, who...
From...
Other Side of the Wind. The director that did...
really?
Isn't it him?
I have no clue.
We gotta Google him. He felt like somebody important. I mean, Warner Brothers had that. What do you think of Stanley? How they handled him? So he committed suicide. What do you make of that?
That I know is in the books.
Okay.
Which I think it worked really well in the beginning to just set this layer of fear. And the way Pennywise just taunted them about it, like ooh, like it was, he really dug the knife in, and it immediately sets a level of they're no longer kids anymore. They can be hurt, you know, because a lot of times in adventures with kids, it's like they can't really, you're not losing anyone. Like in the first film, no losers were lost. In this one, you start off by losing one, so it immediately creates tension.
It actually teases repeatedly that they're all gonna die.
Yeah. Or could die.
Could die. I was right. It wasn't Paul Bogdanovich. It was Peter Bogdanovich.
But it was the guy. Oh, okay.
It was the guy.
Okay.
It is the guy from what's the film he's known for? Last Picture Show.
Mm-hmm.
He was mentee of Orson Welles. Which, by the way, you should go watch The Other Side of the Wind on Netflix. Since it's never going to get a physical release, and nobody cared about the movie.
I'm ready to wrap it up.
I am too. At the end of the day, it's it's a good film, but it's brought down by a lot of what we discussed as sequelitis, and it's interesting because it does one of those things that we do when we're trying to unravel certain things, but then you notice other deficiencies.
So you have to grab on, but it connects to something else.
Right.
It's a bit of a jumbled mess. I feel.
I think Kyle would call it a beautiful mess. Because at the end of the day, there is a lot good in this movie. A lot. Like, and I think maybe for most people who are fans of the novelization are going to be ultimately satisfied with this.
Or fans of the first film.
Right. I just think for me, I don't want to, because maybe I don't make myself clear enough. The issue with the pacing is bad, and there were some things in this film that did not need to be in this movie at all. And they could have cut out a lot. Mm-hmm. But I would still say for me, the biggest issue is it just feels like more of the same. Mm-hmm. And I feel like maybe this shouldn't have been more of the same. There should have been something new to that. Whether that be... I'm sorry, maybe we should have had like Pennywise maybe more front and center, maybe more vengeful, maybe more masterful, evil, like...
The way they encounter him maybe be different now that they're adults.
Maybe a lot scarier. Because like it's I never really found the first It to be scary. I don't really think this movie is that scary either. No. There's some disturbing imagery for sure. There's some creepiness.
Think the first one worked really well, like like an R-rated Goonies. The first one,
right?
And I think
they
that
were
worked
kids.
really well.
But
this one I think should have taken a darker turn as adults.
Much
darker. And then also, like I keep saying, like this idea of a vengeful Pennywise.
Right.
But none of that ever really, I feel, comes to fruition like I would have liked.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. That's how I feel.
Yeah. So, thank you guys for watching this After Dark of, Red Spotlight. It Chapter 2. And stay tuned for a podcast review whenever Peter feels like recording an episode of the podcast, which will be uploaded on the feed sometime. But until next time, stand in the spotlight. Do the thing.